So during Manchester United's game against Newcastle, we saw them have a number of problems both systemically and through individual players. Rangnick's style of play in possession is very direct and very quick, which is why we saw Manchester United playing a lot of direct vertical passes forward. But certainly in the first half, we did see how problematic this style of play can be against a side like Newcastle, who sat off in a 4-5-1 shape, sitting very deep and compact. Despite there being a lot of flaws in Manchester United's game, I did think that Rangnick did make the right changes at half time, both from an individual and systemic point of view. But before I break down what those were, for cheap good quality football jerseys, retro jerseys and tracksuits, go over to www.jerseyfifa.com. I myself have bought a number of different jerseys from Jersey FIFA, and my favourite has to be my Manchester United 2003-2004 shirt with Ronaldo on the back. So if you want one similar to this or a different one from a different team, then click the link in the description and use code ATLANTISFOOTBALL to get 5% off. So Rangnick set up Manchester United in that 4-2-2 system, which is very narrow in possession. It becomes a kind of 2-4-2-2 shape, and it was Rashford and Bruno Fernandes who were the two players behind the two centre forwards, whose job it was to move in between the lines and look to receive the ball. However, the problem was Newcastle were defending in a very deep and compact 4-5-1 shape. They would allow United to bring the ball out of their defensive third, which allowed Maguire and Varane a lot of possession. Newcastle's midfield three of John Joe Shelvey, Sean Longstaff and Joe Linton did a very good job of cutting the passing lanes from the deeper lying players like Maguire, Fred and McTominay into the likes of Fernandes and Rashford between the lines, and so this stopped United being able to progress the ball into the final third. I felt that because of United's narrow system with Rashford and Fernandes moving from wider positions into central positions, they lacked advanced width, and so it made it easy for Newcastle to sit narrow and close of these passing lanes. I will come on to what Rangnick did to change this in the second half, but in the first half United were very vulnerable when Newcastle won the ball back and looked to counter through the centre of the pitch. See, in possession we didn't see McTominay and Fred simply hold their position like we did under Solskjaer in his 4-2-3-1 system. Instead we saw McTominay making a lot of forward runs, which in general is a very good thing as it does give you more forward passing options, but it does mean that when you lose the ball there's one less player in central midfield, and so we often saw Fred getting isolated in the centre of the pitch, and this is why Newcastle in the early part of the game were able to break right through United's central midfield. Newcastle's goal didn't necessarily come from this, but it did come from a Newcastle counter after United lost the ball. Varane goes for the aerial duel with Wilson, wins it and then loses concentration, allowing Newcastle to win the ball back, and now they're driving into United's defensive third. The ball gets shifted out to Saint-Maximin, and the second mistake of this sequence comes from Diego Dalot, who can't allow Saint-Maximin to cut in on his right foot, but even still from this position Maguire is there to come across, and he has to stop Saint-Maximin from this position, but his feet seem to be stuck in mud. Saint-Maximin breezes past him, and even though he's off balance, his shot still flies into the back of the net. Now this wasn't Maguire's only mistake of the game. Within 2 minutes of the game starting, a ball got played down the channel and he just completely lost concentration, allowing Ryan Fraser to take the ball off of him, and luckily it didn't amount to anything, but this is a persistent pattern in Maguire's game. He seems to constantly lose concentration and he's constantly flat-footed when he approaches players in one-on-one tackles. I do think it was Maguire who was the worst in this game, but there was other players who were very poor, and I'll come on to them later on in the video. Going into half-time, United had an XG of just 0.49 compared to Newcastle's 0.18, and so Rangnick made a couple of changes. At half-time I thought that Cavani and Sancho had to come on, and that's exactly what Rangnick did. He brought off Fred and moved Bruno Fernandes back into central midfield and instructed the two attacking midfielders, Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho, to hold their width a lot more, so that United were playing with a lot more width in their 4-2-2 shape. The reason Fernandes was pulled backwards was because he's got a better passing range than both McTominay and Fred, and so having him in that deeper central midfield role allowed United to increase their ability to progress the ball forward with these direct vertical passes. Before I go any further, just a reminder, I do have a Patreon where for £5 a month, each week you'll get a weekly newsletter, as well as 2 exclusive Patreon videos. One video will be a Manchester United based video, and the other will be a video on a topic voted on by Patreon. So if you do want to see that and you do want to help support the channel, click the link in the description to sign up to my Patreon. But if not, just by watching my videos for the whole length does help support the channel, and it's much appreciated as well. If you notice throughout the game, as soon as United won the ball, they seemed to be looking for that forward pass, and they were playing a lot more long passes over the back line than you would usually expect, and this is consistent with Rangnick's style of play, looking to use that direct vertical passes to transition the attack quickly and get players running in behind the opposition's back line, but I did think United were playing those balls far too early. The passes they were playing were far too vertical, they needed to be more diagonal, as playing these vertical passes does make it easier for the defenders in the back line to anticipate and drop off, and also it's harder to play these balls at the right weight to release players in behind, whereas if you're playing diagonal balls it seems to be a lot easier, and that's why when Maguire was on the ball and Newcastle had dropped back into their 4-5-1 shape, he was able to use his long passing ability to switch the ball out to the flanks, and it was from this kind of situation where United were to get their goal. Instead it was Maguire playing the ball into Bruno Fernandes in central midfield, and here we do see the benefit of playing Fernandes deeper. Fred and McTominay don't have the same passing ability that Fernandes has, but playing Fernandes in this deeper position allows United to work the ball into him and quickly switch the ball out to Diego Dalot, who's overlapping down the right side. This also showcases the benefit of using Diego Dalot over Wan-Bissaka, as by using Dalot as a right back in this position he's able to control the ball and put in a great cross into the box into Cavani. However, Wan-Bissaka probably would have took a lot longer to get the cross in because his first touch and ability to get the ball out of his feet is very poor in comparison to Dalot, and Dalot's ability to do this creates his goal. Cavani's first shot is blocked and then he's able to put in the rebound. Under Rangnick, Manchester United seem to be using crosses from the flanks a lot more than they did under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Alex Telles and Diego Dalot are encouraged to push forward down the flanks, which led to Dalot creating a chance for Cavani's goal, and Cavani should have had a second when Alex Telles motored forward down that left side and put in a fantastic low cross, and if we're being honest, Cavani should have scored, but he didn't anticipate the defender missing the ball, and in the end it was a massive chance missed. I was impressed by Newcastle as despite Manchester United dominating possession throughout the second half, they did still have a counter-attacking threat, and that came from when there was a turnover and they were able to break through the centre of United's midfield, and this continued to be a problem for United throughout the game, and towards the end of the game United were actually lucky to not lose it. Jacob Murphy had a shot which hit the post, and then Almiron's curling effort towards the top corner required a fantastic save from David De Gea. These defensive issues showcased how much Manchester United do need a central midfielder in January. I did think that McTominay played quite well throughout this game. On the ball, I think his forward passing has drastically improved from Solskjaer to Rangnick, and I think this just comes from Rangnick instructing McTominay to be looking for those forward passes into players between the lines, and taking away that pressure of losing the ball. A lot of the time central midfielders are more concerned with not losing the ball than actually doing anything with it, and this was a major problem that Solskjaer had with McTominay and Fred in central midfield, and instantly I can see the difference between McTominay's game in possession under Solskjaer and under Rangnick. I also thought that he put in quite a few good tackles in the centre of midfield, but United's main problem was that because of their forward movement in possession, McTominay and Fred were just completely isolated, and even though both players didn't play terribly in this game, they aren't the elite ball winner that Manchester United need, and that's why I've suggested that United go out and get Tchouameni or someone of their ilk, because I think a player like that would have broken up a lot of Newcastle's attack from the source and stopped Newcastle being able to travel with the ball into United's defensive third. The result of this would obviously be that Newcastle get less chances at United's goal, but having a ball winner like this in central midfield would also allow United to sustain their attacks, and I think this was an element that was missing in United's game. I also think that Rangnick may have to go with that wider system that he used in the second half against teams like Newcastle, who are going to sit deep and compress the space between the lines, because otherwise United just struggle to progress the ball into the final third. But the fact that Rangnick was able to adapt in the second half does show that he's willing to change his system, which is going to be very important for United over the second half of the season. But bigger than the system, I think United's main problem is their individual players. Now, I am planning on doing a video on what Gary Neville discussed about Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo sulking and the effect of this on the squad, so if you want to see that video, remember to subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you get notified when that video comes out. But I think it was Rashford and Maguire who were the two individual players that I thought played absolutely terribly in this game. Whenever the ball is around Maguire, whether this is in or out of possession, it seems like a mistake could happen at any point, and this just creates such uncertainty in the back line. And I do think that Maguire has to be dropped for either Bailly or Lindelof at this point. Marcus Rashford was also terrible in this game. His crossing and passing seemed to be completely off, and other than when it comes to finishing inside the box, he seems to have just completely deteriorated as a player, and that's why I think he has to move into that forward position, because his ability on the ball when United are looking to break down the opposition or when the ball is out wide seems to be completely unpredictable, and he doesn't have that quality that he seems to have in front of goal. So overall, despite there being a few positives including Rangnick's change of system, the offensive output of the fullbacks Telles and Dalot, there are still some very concerning issues at United, in particularly individual performances of players like Harry Maguire and Marcus Rashford, and overall overall how the team functions as a whole, but I'm sure Rangnick will be able to sort this out over the next few weeks, so I do think we have to give United a bit of time in that situation, but for players like Rashford and Maguire, a massive decision has to be made. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, remember to subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified when my videos come out, sign up to my Patreon for exclusive content if you want to help support the channel, and go to the description to check out some other videos as well.